Okay, this is shading, kind of my intro to shading, part 2. This is where I'm going to tell you exactly how I show my students how to shade, how to control their pencil. If you haven't watched the shading non-example video, you want to go back and watch that first. That's super important. If you've watched that, you are in the right place. You want to make sure that your pencil is nice and sharp. You've got a 2B pencil and that you are ready to make a band. Now, I have my students do this in a very particular way. The very first and most important thing is you've got to have a razor sharp pencil. Now, if you don't have a pencil like this, first of all, I highly recommend it. If you are looking for an amazing experience with shading on any type of textured paper, every paper has texture. If you're using Bristol board that's got a smooth hot press type feel, or watercolor paper or whatever, sharp pencils will always give you a smoother transition. So when we do our shading in class, we want to make sure that the paper is oriented in portrait. Now I've got the bottom half of the page here kind of hanging off the camera, but that's okay. But the reason why this is important is because it's easy to divide this page in half, and we can just make a small mark here that kind of divides the page in half. I don't want to fold it and I don't want to draw a line, because I want to shade and I want to be able to not have any weird bumps, or we want a nice flat clean surface, and and we want to have enough space that we can go from dark to light, but not too much space. As I said in previous videos, we want to control how quickly that transition happens. And if we take too long, or if we go from clear over here to over here, the transition isn't happening as fast and the training isn't happening as quickly and as effectively. So when we do this, we want to make sure that our band is no more than 1 inch wide. Okay, if you get more than that, you'll start to get a curve, and we want to make this thing nice and flat and not have any contour to it. So we're going to start about there, maybe a 1/2 inch from the edge of the paper, and our goal is to blend to the white of the paper before we get to this point. Okay, and we want to stay about 1 inch wide. I'm not going to make a box, because then we feel like we have to stay inside that box. And so here we go. This is how I do it. Now I want to make sure, I'm going to go through kind of the checklist that I go through when I do this. I'm standing, but that doesn't really matter at this point. But I want to make sure that I'm not leaning against my hand, okay? I want to keep my hand so that it will flow and slide on the paper real nice, and my back is straight. I'm sitting up straight so that I can not hold my hand up, or hold my body up with my hand. Now I'm going to do this first step a little slower and take you through it. This first step, I'm going to make that little oval. The reason why I want to do that, it's a very skinny oval. We don't want it to be any wider than that, otherwise you'll get a curve that's going the opposite direction at the top of the stroke. The reason why we're doing this is because this first stroke and then the second stroke here, they work as layers. So we're not going to 100% the value we want at the very beginning. We want to lay enough down so that we get to as dark as the pencil will allow. And then once we've arrived at that spot, well, then we want to move. That way we're avoiding polishing the graphite here. I'm just getting it as dark as we need, and then moving on. And here we go. And as I move towards my right, I'm making sure that I'm slowly lessening the pressure. And as I start to get to where I need to really make it lighter, I'm going to start to slow down with my oval. Just like that. It's not perfect, doesn't have to be, but generally speaking, we've got it darker to lighter. I've got a little bit of a line here, and you can come back in here and touch things up. Get a nice sharp pencil, and it doesn't take much to fill those in. A lot of times we've got to put a second layer on it, and that will help to blend things. Got a little bit of a darker spot there, but that looks a lot better. And there you go. I want you to look at the edge here. I'm not worried about getting that nice and even. You don't need to take an eraser to it. We want to kind of leave that just a little bit jagged. Okay. Now, a little word of warning. Down here, you might guess, it's really pretty easy. This, you just worried about getting it nice and dark. Down here, a lot less easy. This requires some touch. Make sure that when you grip your pencil, when you did that it's not clear down here. You're not signing your name on some legal document. Hold your pencil out here so that you can move freely but still have control and you're not really pushing really hard. We want medium pressure, okay? Just like that.